Amanda America Dickson Toomer was born enslaved on the 20th of November 1849 on the Dixon plantation in Hancock County, Georgia. Her mother, Julia Frances Lewis, was a slave who worked as a house servant. Meanwhile, her father was a well-known slave owner and agricultural reformer called David Dixon. He was one of the wealthiest planters in the local area. The circumstances of Amanda's birth were quite sad and unfortunate. Her mother, Julia, was just 12 years old when she was raped by her master, who was 40 years of age. Julia then became a mother at the very young age of 13. For a while, Amanda lived with her mother and her maternal grandmother, but once Amanda was no longer dependent on her mother's milk, she was taken from her. It was decided by Dixon and his family that Amanda was to be raised in the household of her white grandmother, Elizabeth Schollers Dixon. Although legally a slave by birth, Amanda's father made sure that she was well educated. Thus, she was taught to read, write, and play the piano. Throughout the years, Lewis Dixon developed innovative and successful farming techniques. Due to this, he became famous in the local area and much wealthier. By 1861, he was nicknamed the Prince of Georgia Farmers. It's thought that the prosperity in the state was in large part thanks to him. One thing he was vastly remembered for was teaching farmers that violence wasn't necessary to profit from slave labor. Dixon treated his daughter well, showering her with love and affection. When Julia was able to see her daughter, she also gave her lots of love, but Dixon treated the mother of his daughter quite badly. Julia Frances was owned by Dixon and worked as his housekeeper. Not only did she have to do long, hard hours, but she was also forced to satisfy all of Dixon's needs, including sexual ones. Despite Amanda's legal status, she was relatively well treated. Thanks to her father's social standing, she was quite privileged. For example, she was taught the social customs of her wealthy white family, proper etiquette, how to dress, and in general, how to be and act as a lady. All of this would hopefully allow her to be a lady of society. Furthermore, Amanda's father taught her practical knowledge, such as how to conduct a business. This information allowed her to have good finances, meaning she could maintain and protect her wealth if need be. Growing up, Amanda developed a special relationship with her grandmother, Elizabeth. She would spend many hours in her grandmother's room, enjoying her company. But sadly, she passed away in 1864. Amanda was 15 at the time. Although they had a special relationship, by law, Amanda's grandmother, Elizabeth, was technically her owner. It's more than likely that if Elizabeth could have, she would have manumitted her. But in Georgia, it was prohibited by law to independently free slaves, meaning even if slaveholders wanted to, they couldn't change the status of their slaves to free. Because of this, it wasn't until slavery was abolished in 1865 that Amanda was freed. When Amanda was 16 years old, she left her father's plantation to marry her first white cousin called Charles Eubanks. Together they lived on a small plantation in Floyd County, Georgia, near the city of Rome. Although the couple wanted to marry, they couldn't do so legally in Georgia, because at that point in time, certain laws prohibited the marriage of interracial couples. It's not known if they got married in another state where these laws didn't exist, as there's no proof of a legal marriage ever taking place. Her partner Charles had recently returned from fighting in the Civil War, serving in the Confederate Army. Shortly after Amanda moved in with Charles, they had a son called Julian Henry, and in 1870, she gave birth to Charles Green. Both went on to become part of Georgia's high society, marrying women from prominent families. Unfortunately, Amanda was constantly unhappy in the relationship, and so, in 1870, just after giving birth to her second son, she left Charles and returned to live on the Dixon plantation. Charles Eubanks then died on the 31st of July, 1873. When Amanda was 27, she left her home once again in order to attend the Normal School of Atlanta University. She studied teaching there for 2 years, from 1876 to 1878. After this, she returned home to the plantation once again. On the 18th of February, 1885, Amanda's father, David Dixon, suddenly died. This was very important for his relatives, as it was unclear how his will was going to be divided, and of course, everyone wanted their slice of the cake. David Dixon's will stated that all of his wealth and property, which included over 15,000 acres of land, his personal possessions, and $3,000 in cash, would be left to his daughter, Amanda Dickson, and her 2 sons. The will stated that this estate would be left to her sound judgment and unlimited discretion. Furthermore, it prohibited interference from anyone, including any future husband. Despite Dixon's dying wish of no one contesting his will, a total of 79 relatives filed a lawsuit, taking the David Dixon will case to court. Many arguments were presented in order to prevent Amanda Dickson from inheriting her late father's fortune. A frequently raised point was that David Dixon was not of sound mind when he wrote the will. Other family members insisted that he was unduly influenced by Amanda America and Julia Dixon. Some family members even went as far as to say that Amanda wasn't actually his daughter. The case was first resolved by a probate court which ruled in favor of the will. Following an appeal, in November 1885, it went to the Superior Court of Hancock County. Again, the court upheld the will's validity. Not happy with this result, Amanda's restless, distant family members appealed once again. The case finally made its way to the Supreme Court of Georgia. In the end, it was ruled by Associate Justices Samuel Hall and Mark Blanford that Amanda was entitled to everything Dixon had left her in the will. The ruling cited the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution, as it states that property rights are equal for everyone, no matter the race. Finally, after more than 2 years since her father's death, Amanda was finally able to dispose of her inheritance. Thanks to this, she became one of the wealthiest African American women of the 19th century. As a result of the legal dispute with her family, Amanda felt so much pressure and discontent that she left her family plantation on the 15th of July, 1886. She settled in Augusta, Georgia, a city which she was familiar with. There, Amanda purchased a large 7-bedroom red brick home in one of the best neighborhoods in the city. After a short time in Augusta, Amanda's wealth allowed her to become part of the elite black community in the city. Her intelligence, elegance, good nature and wealth made her well liked and known by much of Georgia's high society. On the 14th of July, 1892, Amanda married Nathan Toomer. Her husband was similar to her in many ways. Like Amanda, Nathan was well educated, wealthy, and mixed race. He too had been born into slavery, yet he learned the ways of upper-class white gentlemen when he worked as a personal assistant to Colonel Henry Toomer. For various months after her marriage, Amanda had many health problems which were constantly attended to by the family physician, Thomas D. Coleman. Eventually, her health did improve, but it would again deteriorate due to a stressful family ordeal. In 1893, her youngest son 23-year-old Charles Green Dixon, who was a married man, became infatuated with his stepsister, Mammy Toomer, who was just 14 years old. In order to protect the young girl, Amanda and Nathan Toomer decided to send Mammy to a convent school in Baltimore, Maryland. However, this didn't deter Charles. With the aid of 3 accomplices, 2 of whom were his in-laws, they planned to kidnap young Mammy Toomer. Fortunately, their plan failed, and as a result, all of those involved, except Charles Dixon, were indicted for conspiring to kidnap the young girl. After having spent around a month in Baltimore, the ordeal was behind them, so Nathan and Amanda traveled back home to Augusta. Sadly, they were discriminated against when they were denied their first-class seats on a Pullman car. Due to this, they had to change their travel plans. As a result, the journey home was very unpleasant. Conditions while traveling were not ideal, and the very high temperatures caused Amanda's health to once again take a turn for the worse. The couple finally arrived home on the 9th of June, 1893. Upon arrival, Amanda was seen by a doctor and was diagnosed with neurasthenia, or nervous exhaustion. The symptoms include unexplained chronic abnormal fatigue, insomnia, back pain, anxiety, depression, and headaches, among many others. Unfortunately, just 2 days later, Amanda America Dickson Toomer died on the 11th of June, 1893, due to complications of diseases. She was just 43 years old and had only been married to Nathan Toomer for about a year. Amanda's funeral was held at the Trinity Methodist Church. She was buried in her wedding dress in Cedar Grove Cemetery, Richmond County, Georgia. Amanda didn't leave a will, so following her death, a legal battle ensued for control of her estate. In the end, it was settled out of court, with her mother, husband, and sons coming to a friendly agreement. Thank you everyone for watching this video on Amanda America Dickson. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave me a like and a comment down below. And if you're new, why not subscribe? If you have any suggestions, please leave me a comment or email me, which is found in my description. Anyway, I will see all of you in the next Forgotten Life. Thanks!